I have confidence in the human race. I believe sincerely that we will overcome these challenges. We have commitments that come from as far back as the Paris Agreement, which need to be lived up to. So I've come here with a mission to making sure that the conversation is kept alive. I've come here to make sure that I can commit the contribution Botswana has made to this great effort and ensure that multilateralism is taken to another level.
President Masisi of Botswana, this COP, COP27, has been dubbed the Africa COP. Just in a few words, what's your vision? What do you want to achieve through this COP27?
Thank you very much, Serene. Through this COP, the Africa COP, I'd want to ensure that I, as one of the African leaders, play my part of responsibility and accountability to the African people and to the global community by ensuring that that which affects Africa the most, which is a part of the world, is dealt with. We have commitments that come from as far back as the Paris Agreement, which need to be lived up to. We have further commitments or a reinforcement of those that come from the last COP, COP26, that was in Glasgow, that we need to make sure, for the sake of the humanity in Africa, is lived up to. So I've come here with a mission to making sure that the conversation is kept alive. I've come here with a mission of ensuring that we can look eyeball to those who are mainly responsible to get answers from them. I've come here with a mission to make sure that we can forge partnerships to make sure that we can co-invest. We can co-invest in research, in the development of infrastructure that is resilient to the adverse effects of the shocks of adverse weather, particularly given issues of climate change. I've come here to make sure that I can commit the contribution Botswana has made to this great effort and ensure that multilateralism is taken to another level.
Do you believe it is time that multilateralism, the terms that multilateralism follows, need to change, and how?
Well, you know, the real effects of climate change, more than anything else, will cause any right-thinking citizen of the world to recommit to multilateralism. And you know why? Because we're in this together.
What brand of multilateralism are we talking about?
Well, we're talking a very simple brand of ensuring that there is a respect for the rights of not only other nation states, but citizens of the world as human beings. So it's really fundamentally about the respect of the human rights of everyone, irrespective of where they are, who they are, and what they have.
African states this COP have come up with a number of Africa-grown initiatives. In Botswana, you've developed the Botswana Innovation Hub, and Botswana has been named as the continent's fastest growing innovation hub. Tell me more about innovation and why it's important.
Well, it's exciting because we are traditionally known as a country that was not only a cattle producing country and then later on a diamond producing country, you know, and diamonds, as you know, are exhaustive. They could, even though they've generated so much money for us, which we didn't have before. But what's important to look into the future is to make sure that there is sustainability to our financing, because our development needs are massive. We inherited a country from our former colonial masters that literally had nothing. There were barely 4 secondary schools in the country. There were less than 20 graduates at independence. And so it's dawned on us that continuing to mine and get our mines getting deeper will result in us exhausting this precious commodity without diversifying our economy. And diversifying the economy in the context of the challenges of today, climate change being one of them, requires that we acquire new skills fastest. So to frog leap meant a vertical upward motion in terms of development. And so we invest a lot of money and our minds' time in digital technology. We invested a lot of our time in innovation. And our innovation hub is there to provide solutions not just for Botswana and the region, for the world. We have more than 60% of our population is made of people who are less than 30 years old. And so they're very tech-savvy, they're very easy to turn around, and it makes damn good economic sense because they represent a cohort of persons who will live longest and who will be at work longest. So it makes sense to make them the future.
What is the biggest obstacle in terms of achieving this vision?
Financing. We don't have enough money to do it. Another obstacle, if it is an obstacle, maybe a challenge more than an obstacle, we need partners who have our welfare at heart enough to be able to open up opportunities for our young people to be attached to learn from them. We are a country that is hungry for knowledge. We're a country that's hungry for innovation. We're a country that's hungry to find solutions. We're a country that's hungry to march forward and transition ourselves from being a resource-based economy to a knowledge-based economy. And so patenting, franchising, trademark, it's very important that we trade in tradables that are tradable, services and goods. And we think a lot of it will be given a conduit through digital technology.
Let's talk finance. Is development cooperation finance enough? And how do we open the doors while maintaining sovereignty and financial and political stability? How do you open the door to private finance in a way that is aligned with your vision as a country and with your priorities?
Finance does not go where there's no profit to be made, particularly private finance. And we're acutely aware of that because we as a country are in partnership with a big mining company, De Beers, a joint partnership to mine our diamonds. We formed a 50-50 partnership called Bostwana, the most successful by far. So we as a government are fully aware of what the private sector needs to be motivated. And so we're going through a process where we're just publishing our transitional plan. It's a 2-year plan. Part of it is recovery from COVID and catching up, and in part to try and democratize our planning to be in harmony with our electoral cycle. But more than anything else, we have noted through our transitional plan that we need to give space for the private sector. So we're going to offload some certain sectors that the government has dominated in and give room for the private sector and attract them to come in. We also need to be more aware of the opportunities of co-financing. So it could be private financing along with government in a partnership to finance those. We are also aware that there could be need for development partners to play a catalytic role, particularly for helping the country be better able to manage its development going forward. And so we remain eternally grateful for institutions such as yourself, UNEP, who provided $4 million for our digitization program called SmartBots. And that provides a lot of confidence to the private sector to come and invest in our country because transparency is enhanced, because efficiency is enhanced, and you can great opportunities for the employability of young persons with new future skills.
In our work with Botswana in the past months, what we've noted is that there's a huge opportunity in terms of regional cooperation. Your relationship with Mozambique, with Namibia, with Zimbabwe, with many of the countries of the Southern African region are quite close, are well aligned. What opportunities does that bring in terms of investment and private finance and innovation?
Do you know, I'll speak on behalf of SADC now, the region, right? And that's a whopping market, easily accessible. You know, it's 300 million people. Yes, we're all very close in the Southern African region, very close. We're trying to industrialize. We're trying to integrate. And part of the integration comes from infrastructure projects to make trade smoother. Digital networks, communication. We're trying to make that even closer. We have the headquarters of SADC in Gaborone, in Botswana. And all of our countries are trying to do things that can be used to enhance the economies, not just of themselves, but the region. And there's also a solidarity pact that stems out of the philosophy of the old frontline states that were committed to the liberation of the whole region. And so that's why when you find there is an adverse events in Mozambique where negative forces, terrorists are destabilizing a particular region, we came together as SADC and we put together a force to try and douse that out. So there's a lot of solidarity in the region. But you know, and before we achieve all that, there's need to make sure that you rev up in every country because young people all over SADC. Language is no longer such a barrier because the people of the region speak English very well. Many speak Portuguese too. Many speak the indigenous language that cut across borders. And with the advent of television broadcasting across the region, including the mobile telephony, it's just made so many countries come together so much closer. So the opportunities are vast. They're a very young, vibrant, educated workforce.
Absolutely. You mentioned today earlier, you said when you spoke to industry leaders from all over the world, the biggest companies in the world and the biggest finance sector institutions in the world, you said Botswana is open for business. Tell me more.
You know, we have a very stable macroeconomic environment. That's not a recent development. It's legendary. We have a very predictable fiscal regime. That is not recent, it is legendary. We have a stability of governance, of government. We have never experienced nor come close to experience a coup d'etat. We are multi-party democracy. That's been so since independence. So the enormity of stability, both the financial, economic, and the political, including the track record that we have by hosting an international financial service center, by removing any restrictions on foreign currency movements, puts us in pole position to attract investment. But more than that, we have a very vibrant, strong, independent judiciary that's been tested. And so I ask, what more would be needed? You can bring your investment in any currency, make the profits you make, you can remit them. There is no history of any disruption to any of these. We're a safe and secure, peaceful country that was forced into having a defense force because of intrusions and incursions by the white minority ruled apartheid racist regimes of the time. And so we've always kept our defense force very small because we think our biggest defense is our peace.
Well said. I have maybe feedback from industry, and especially kind of the bigger, say, technology giants in the world. And I said, why aren't you doing more in Africa? And what I was told was one of the biggest problems is infrastructure. For example, in the lighting sector, in the electrification sector. So they say, for example, if we are talking about, say, sustainable mobility, we need special type of infrastructure. If we're talking about sustainable lighting, we need special type of buildings and infrastructure. How big is the infrastructure problem, and how do you feel at scale it could be bridged in terms of the larger infrastructure projects and opportunities?
You know, I well concede that our infrastructure is not as developed as you'd find in the developed world.
It's not only Botswana, obviously.
Yes, I mean the region.
It's continent-wide and
yes,
region-wide.
the region and Africa. But if you're to look at the sustainability of the business case for those big companies, it doesn't make sense for them to continue giving that reason. Because one day one of them will outdo them and will jump on the bandwagon and they will be left far behind.
So in a clearer way, what's your expectation? What's your advice?
My expectation is that we get around the conference table and talk. And we begin to do something about it. We don't just talk, we actually do it. You know, where are the gaps, right? How do we finance filling them in? What will you do when you do that? And that's what we need to, and we need to start, for Pete's sake. I mean, we're looking at a population of Africa currently of 1.3 billion people. Which company looks that by and says infrastructure is a problem, rather than sort the problem out in order to make a sustained profit in the future? We need a long-term view of this.
Absolutely. And it cannot be said, I think, in clearer terms. The world is going through pandemic still. It's not over, and there are new things that are coming up every day. Peace and security is a challenge more than ever before. And there is a economic slowdown, to say the least. How optimistic are you in terms of moving forward, doing better, achieving sustainability, achieving peace and security for our nations? From the point of view Botswana and as a global citizen, how optimistic are you?
You know, as a living creature, I have no option but to be optimistic, because the opposite of optimism is almost as good as being, lethargic and really giving up on oneself. I have confidence in the human race because we've survived so many years with so many problems, and we'll be able to overcome them. I believe sincerely that we will overcome these challenges. I believe sincerely that reason will prevail. I mean, a lot of our challenges are man-made, human-made. And so one of the conversations that we need to get into and understand is, to what extent do we allow any one country to develop systems that allows it to act unilaterally, irrespective of what impacts it has on the world? I mean, we need a global governance system that's much superior to what we have right now.
It goes back to your comment about the multilateral system, the need to recommit, the need to strengthen.
Yes, but you also need to reorganize the whole UN system so that it can act more deliberately and force other countries to act in accord with the desires of the majority.
The question is how?
Well, you need to reform the Security Council. I mean, this is not the end of the Second World War, I mean, times have changed. You can't allow the big five countries to be making determinations and allowing a rule system that says when one of them objects, everything stops. Come on, it's a bullying system. Put bluntly, it doesn't work.
The world is changing. We
Yes.
have to change.
Yes.
This climate COP, COP27, Sharm el-Sheikh, Africa, Egypt. If one thing happens here that you feel would deliver, what would that be?
Living up to the commitments of the Paris Accord, a declaration followed by the implementation of that declaration.
Let's be more specific. And loss and damage is now on the table. The
All right.
negotiators are negotiating.
All right, listen. What was promised in Paris in terms of financing? You tell me. What is promised? Do you recall? The $100 billion?
Where are they?
Exactly. They're here. They must just pay up.
But why were they promised and not delivered?
I don't think I'm the best person to be answering that question, because I'm not them. I cannot imagine why they don't deliver on it. Because, when the harm takes place, it harms everybody. But what's most unfair about it is for us who've hardly contributed to this to be punished equally.
President Masisi, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for the insights. Thank you for the vision. And thank you for being so candid, because I think being honest and being straightforward in our vision and what we want to achieve is the only way to achieve it. So we wish you the best of luck. We will be watching Botswana as it moves from strength to strength. We're very proud to have, as an Egyptian, in the African continent, a country that's very high on the innovation spectrum. And we wish you the best of luck with the Smart Botswana initiative and everything else that you're doing.
I must thank you, Cherise, and I'm proud to be in Egypt, the cradle of civilization.
And we are proud to have you. We're proud to also have you in Transformers. You are a transformer. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.